I'm sitting at my desk sorting through my correspondence as Hieronymous sits beside me and completes his work. I don't know what he's doing, but it looks like math, and I had already made it quite clear that when it came to numbers, I was useless. I had started to spend my free time doing quick addition problems in my head to try to improve my arithmetic, but I just didn't have a natural affinity towards math like Hieronymus did. I know better than to disturb him from his counting, and so I take a look at the personal letters that I had put off to the side for later. Minnie had written to me yet again to apologize, and I still hadn't responded to her. I knew I was going to have to forgive her at some point, but I just didn't know what to say. Still, I knew I should at least try to be the bigger person and extend an olive branch. Minnie, how is college going? Tell me about the classes you are taking. Is it fun there? Are you learning a lot? Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Tori. I considered signing the letter with Lady Grabiner, but that would just make it seem way too formal, and so I decide against it. I send the letter and then read through a few more. Marcus wrote to me telling me that he stepped in the ocean for the first time today, and while that was probably a huge milestone for him, I wasn't sure how to politely ask if his parents had been there with him. I assumed they were, but that was a question I could get around to asking after I thought about what I wanted to say a bit more. I open up another letter and almost drop it immediately. Dearest Tori, however are you doing? We were all so sad to hear that you were leaving school in order to join your husband on his travels, but you must go where your heart lies. Is that what Miss Minchin told everyone? Regardless, I read on. I decided to follow my heart's desires and married a man just last week. He is a count from Durthan in the far corners of the other world, but he paid a handsome bride price that my parents couldn't refuse. I had been so hoping that Lavinia would let me court her brother, but she called our union vulgar, and I do not have the fortune to keep her family sweet. So this is my lot. But I am married. I will have a nice house and fine dresses, and he has assured me that he has a large ballroom so that I may dance and twirl until my heart is content. I imagine that she will become Ermengarde was at my wedding, but she has since gone to live with her aunt in the countryside. I imagine that she will become a spinster, but alas, I warned her to put more effort into her appearance. Some women were just not built with a head, or a body, for nobility, I suppose. Now that you and I are both married, noble ladies, we should become better friends. I would very much like to visit you. I have heard stories of the luxuries of the Grabiner estate, and I would very much like to see them. And your maid. I cannot remember her name, but I know she was French. Perhaps you will let me borrow her until I have selected a maid of my own? Your new best friend, the lovely Lady Jessie. Wow, I say out loud as I set the letter down. Just wow. Hieronymus arches an eyebrow as he continues to work, eyes trained down towards his paper, and I can't help but blush. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you from your work. Hieronymus reaches over and takes my hand in his, raising it to his lips so he can kiss the back of my knuckles. I miss you, he says as his eyes meet mine. Tell me about the letter you received. I can't help but snort as I hand him the letter to read. From one of my former classmates at Miss Minchin's, I say as a way of explanation. Hieronymus seems amused as he reads the letter. When he is done, he looks back up at me. It seems you two were quite close. I had no idea. I can't help but giggle at his sarcasm. She loved ballet. She wanted to be a ballet dancer, but she felt that she couldn't because she was English. I don't know. Anyway, who is this Count from Durthan? Do you know him? Hieronymus pauses in consideration. When you said you retrieved my body from the other world, you mentioned that it was a volcanic landscape, correct? Correct, I say slowly. Durthan is not too far from where you found me, he explains. There are not many humans that wander into those lands. Huh. I pause as I consider this. So what you're trying to tell me is that Jesse's new husband isn't human then? Hieronymous shrugs. Most likely not. I hesitate for a moment. Is he anything like Damien? Most likely not, Hieronymous repeats. Just because creatures are of otherworld origin does not mean they are inherently bad, Tori. Look at Mr. Arias. He also came from an area not too far from Durthan, and yet I distinctly remember you referring to him as one of the meekest individuals you ever met. Not in a bad way, I say with a shrug. So how do you think I should respond to her letter? Should I tell her that I'm not interested in being friends, or just leave her hanging with a vague, maybe one day? That depends on you, Hieronymous replies. Is this the first time you have spoken with her since you saw her at Miss Minchin's? Yup, I reply, and she's already asking for favors like borrowing Mariette. First, you can't borrow another person. 2, I worry if I let her have Mariette, I'll never get her back. Also, I should mention that Jesse is a sycophant, where Lavinia is concerned, and I have no idea how close those two still are. Then I think it is best if you simply inform her that Mariette is too busy to leave her duties, but you appreciate that she is thinking of her, Hieronymous replies. Besides, dismissing her request for visitation by explaining that you are overwhelmed by your noble responsibilities is not so much hyperbole as it is fact. Smart and good looking, I tease as I reach over and kiss him, and Hieronymous smirks as he goes back to his work. I'm just about to write a response to Jesse when I notice that another letter has come in. Tori. So, hi there. I know you haven't heard from me in a while, but you were busy and I didn't want to bother you. Or Grabby. I still feel bad about putting him on the spot the last time I saw him. But, I gave birth last month. It's a girl. I haven't named her yet. Do you want to come visit and meet her for yourself? If you're too busy, I understand. Virginia. Hieronymous. I'm immediately on my feet as I pace back and forth across the narrow room. I feel like I could leap through the wall. Virginia had the baby last month? Why was she only telling me about it now? Was it sick? Was something wrong with it? Tori, calm down, Hieronymous says. He looks alarmed, and I quickly take a deep breath. I'm about to offer him the letter for him to read, but I quickly jerk my hand down to my side. What is that? Hieronymous demands. Who is that from? Virginia, I reply. She had the baby. Give me the letter. Hieronymous is on his feet in an instant, holding his hand out for the letter. I sigh, reluctantly handing it to him. So, yeah, I say awkwardly as I can see him rereading it a third, a fourth, and a fifth time. Hieronymous swallows hard. Do you think she hesitated to tell us about the child due to my reaction to her pregnancy? What? I ask suddenly. I mean, she waited a whole month to tell us. I thought that meant the child was sick or something and she wasn't sure it was going to make it. Tori, she explicitly states that she felt poorly due to my reaction, he insists. This is my fault. This isn't your fault, I insist. Looking back, I probably should have said something before our conversation in Shatlock to give you some warning about what you were walking into. I just thought it was her secret to tell. It was not your place to say anything, Hieronymous insists. That was information that Miss Danson needed to disclose on her own terms. You did the right thing by respecting her decision. He shakes his head. But how could you not have known that she had given birth? I tilt my head to the side. What do you mean? Tori, the typical human gestation period is 40 weeks, Hieronymous reminds me. So, given the timeline of when we went to retrieve your diploma to now, I didn't know how far along she was, I say as I shrug my shoulders. I don't even know if she knew when she took the pregnancy test. Obviously, her doctors must have told her something, but I stopped keeping track. We've been busy, and it just sort of slipped my mind. Hieronymous just sighs as he shakes his head again. I suppose it doesn't matter, though I would have thought that she would have wanted you there for the birth. Virginia's a private person, I reply with an errant shrug. So, anyway, what do we do now? Hieronymous stares at me like that is the stupidest question I've asked all day. I thought it went without saying that we are going to leave for Shetlock. Immediately. No, I agree. Let's go, I say as Hieronymous begins to gather up his notes. I'm about to head to the door before I quickly turn back to the desk and sit down. Tori, you can finish up your correspondence later, Hieronymous says firmly. We need to be off. Just give me a second, I insist. I pull out a fresh piece of paper, scribble a note in capital letters, and quickly send it to Virginia before we head out the door. We're on our way.